You're listening to Theater in College Hoops. I am Subi, joined again by Taylor Daml. So good to have him back. A lot has happened since the last time we spoke with Taylor. He is a new man. Of course, I'm talking about the fact that he is watching his Packers team for as long as I've known him for the first time without Aaron Rodgers. No, that's a joke. There's much more bigger and larger and interesting developments that we'll get to when we bring them here after the break. We're brought to you by Belly Up Media. Go download, subscribe, rate, and review us on whichever device it is that you use. Your college hooper of the day. I'm just laughing at the name Gene Swindle. Gene Swindle. I don't have anything on Gene Swindle. Okay, he played for Virginia Tech, also played for James Madison. He's from the Miami area. But the reason I chose Gene, you'll actually find that out. I always like to give a little bit of a Easter egg. Maybe Taylor start letting that percolate and brainstorm ideas as to why I went with this guy named Gene Swindle, which is actually a great name. Just an all. It doesn't even need to be a good basketball name or a good athlete's name. Gene Swindle is just a sweet name. So he is your college hooper of the day. Check out the website at theaterincollegehoops.com. And make sure to follow me at CBB Theater to find out where the theat is. You should also follow Taylor at Taylor Daml. Let's open the curtains. We welcome in the big guy, Taylor Daml. I joked a little bit that this is the first time since I've known you that Aaron Rodgers is no longer the quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. So maybe that's a little different, but much more significant news.
You know, Sue, it is the season of love here in the Daml household for more than just the Packers. And I'm not even sure you meant this as an Easter egg with the Gene reference, but yes, I am now father to Dottie Jean Daml, the old daughter there sitting behind me about 8 feet behind this wall. Having a snack. Let's just say that right now, having a snack with mom. She's been doing great. Came a couple weeks early, 7 pounds 4 ounces, 20.25 inches long, 90th percentile for height and 50th percentile for weight. I wonder whose body type that sounds exactly like. Could be me. Could be me. I don't know. The long legs, the long arms. So, no, it's been fun. It's obviously a world changer, and I try and fight all of the stereotypical phrases like, "Oh, your world's never going to be the same," and yeah, I know, like everybody says the same stuff. So I'm going to take a different route and make it college basketball related. Okay, so I would say being a dad with a newborn, it doesn't necessarily mean that everything's different. It just means that your shot clock is shorter. Let's put it that way. I think that's how you would reference college basketball in this situation. It's not that you can't do a lot of the same things. It's just that the 30-second shot clock no longer exists. You got about a 6-second shot clock on things.
Well, they reduced it from when we first started watching from 35 to 30, right? So
Correct.
maybe college basketball had their own proverbial baby as well. But how are things going, man? You look great. You don't have the bags under your eyes just yet. Just take us inside. Take us inside. And by the way, yes, that absolutely was
Okay.
homage to your daughter's
Okay.
middle name. Okay,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
there was no other. I was looking for players named Gene, Jean Gene, Dot, anything like that. Maybe there are some thrown my way, but that was the one that I landed on because his last name was Swindle also. But how's everything going?
Young Dot, little Dot on the track. She's doing very well. Shout out to all the mothers mothering out there. While you and I sit here and do a dumb college basketball podcast while they take care of our newborn children. This isn't a dumb podcast, but you know what I'm saying.
It is.
Yeah, but no, it's been great. It's been a lot of fun in so many ways. It's been cool to have, um, you know, cool. I'm gonna say cool. And I'm gonna leave the negative side of these things out, but it's been cool. It's been fun to have so many people staying at our house, for the last couple of weeks there.
You got away with words and
Oh,
tone, don't you?
mostly helping out. Yeah, no, it's been fun. It's been fun. Yeah, and we got really lucky in the sense that our hospital was great. All of our labor and delivery nurses were wonderful. She actually came, like I said, 2 weeks early, so we didn't even quite get to the. And again, this is all with an asterisk that this is dad saying this. So I understand this, and I might have to repeat that 8 times, but just I want to beat into everybody's head that I know that I'm dad saying this. Okay, so my perspective is not whole as it relates to having a child, right? But we didn't quite get to that. So she came at 38 weeks, so we didn't quite get to that sit around, do nothing, and wait period that you kind of just get to where you're like you can't even leave the house because you just don't. Any minute things could happen. I don't want to spend, this isn't necessarily an entire baby podcast, but I will say that it was funny when Danielle's water broke. We had a zero sense of panic. It was who would be we were Scotty Reynolds with the ball late in the
I
game.
like that.
We didn't. There was no panic. Poised. Let's say where Danielle's water broke. She showered, did her hair, finished packing. I vacuumed, did a load of laundry, mowed the lawn.
You have
Uh,
time to do all of that, by the way. Like I've never experienced childbirth, but
well,
you can do that. I don't know.
if you're not having contractions, then
Oh,
nothing's headed out. No pun intended there. But so we actually went to Chick-fil-A on the way to the hospital, which was great.
does water
Uh,
breaking mean anything really?
it means that yeah, it's like warm ups. Like
Okay.
sometimes warm ups take longer or shorter depending on what kind of player you are. So
You
um,
shoot up Danielle in the
mhm.
candy stripes that Indiana comes out
Yeah,
in with the warm
exactly.
ups. I got you. All right.
Exactly. She whipped the swishy pants off there. But no, 12 hours essentially from water break to birth. Danielle did incredibly, which is no surprise to me or probably anyone else that knows her. We were in the Shea Honor Health Hospital here in Scottsdale, where apparently every single person in the state of Arizona delivers, which is so strange. That's something
Yes.
that's super unique. Is that how do I know 60 people, not just in Scottsdale, but like Chandler, Gilbert, Tempe, Phoenix, Glendale, all these places. I'm like, this is the fifth largest city in the country. How is every baby in town born at the same hospital? That's somewhat of an exaggeration, but it is actually pretty crazy how many people. And they're like, "Oh, did you have Emma as your nurse?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like we did." What do you mean?
Yeah, I actually know a lot of couples with children and based in the Phoenix, Chandler, Greater Valley area, and they always go to that same hospital. So when
Yeah,
you told me that you guys were expecting, and I asked you, "Hey, do you have a hospital in mind?" I was expecting you to say Shea Honor, right?
right.
And I mean, look, good ass hospital then,
Yeah,
right?
great.
They're like the Kansas of baby hospitals in
Oh,
Arizona, huh?
oh,
The
they're
bar.
they're a dynasty. Yeah, and they're a top 5 program. That's for sure. You love the support staff they got there. Good ball players there in the labor and delivery area. Um, so it's really funny. I only have this one perspective, right? So I do know that growing up in Alaska, um, the hospital situation is a little different than Scottsdale. Like valet at the hospital, a legitimate Starbucks in the basement, like a 4-page food menu. They offered us a literal steak and lobster dinner as to celebrate the night after,
That's
not the
crazy.
night, but the day, the day
Yeah,
after. Like 2 TVs, a bed that I can only say was last time I slept in a bed that small was the last time I went to jail. This was significantly more positive than that. Um, no, it was great. It really was a wonderful experience. Very much thanking our lucky stars because I have so many people that have had very much worse experiences than this. Not that their kids haven't turned out to be wonderful as well, but obviously health concerns. And then for my friends in Alaska, friend of the program, Cody Hoxie, he's like, they only gave me a damn folding chair to lay on for 6 days in the hospital, and I had like 4 pillows, so couldn't even do the funny joking dad, like, oh, let me touch on that. That's what I feel. I almost feel worse for labor and delivery nurses, not from what the mother is going through and having to take care of the child, but God, they have to hear the same dad jokes every day, all over and over and over. That's got to be more painful than anything else going on in that labor and delivery area for the
What?
nurses. I mean,
Who
the
has
nurses.
time for dad jokes during that time? Me personally, I would just be like so singularly focused on my wife
Well, I'm
and
saying
the
after the
expected
delivery,
baby.
after the delivery part is over, and then you're just
Okay,
all just kind of hanging out there, eating, having people in and out, TV's on, whatever.
I
Um,
suppose. All
it's
right.
probably the same like 8 questions, like, oh, how many babies did you deliver today? Oh yeah, like
Oh, I
over,
see.
like,
That is
oh yeah,
actually very much something I would do
oh
in
to
an
me,
effort to
yeah, I mean,
create
yeah.
conversation.
Oh, totally. Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Where are you from? Oh, yeah. Cool. Yeah. Our labor, college basketball related, our labor and delivery nurse went to Creighton. So that's college basketball related as well. Big Blue Jay
Did you
fan there.
ask her? Did you ask her while Dottie was crowding, like, "Hey, what'd you think about that controversial foul call in the Elite Eight to send San Diego? Can you tell me what your thoughts are before helping out?"
Yeah. Like before, so I think she graduated like 5 years ago. And so she's pretty young. And like, hey, yeah. So are you familiar with the McDermotts? Any happen to know any of those guys? Could you let me know before we start here? So um no, it was I tried to keep the dad jokes down to a minimum. Or not dad joke, dad quest, whatever.
Yeah.
Same, it's the same thing over and over again. Oh yeah, the weather. Oh, look at the view of the parking lot. Yeah, whatever. Like just stupid small talk conversation shit. So
I give that nurse credit for coming to work every day with a smile on her face, not only after that Elite Eight loss, but also losing Arthur Kaluma,
yeah,
losing Andrew Nemhard, right? Is it Ryan or Andrew? I forget which Nemhard transferred. But
yeah, sure.
good on that.
I
Which one?
did I did get 2 bear downs during the day in the hospital. So that was huge for the program. Big time for us there. And Danielle did bear down, in fact, during this process. No,
That's
no,
right.
no, probably finer definition than that. Um, if I may pivot for a moment, Sue, not
Do
that I
you
don't
want
care.
to pivot? Like, I want to make
Well,
sure you get. I would also like to just say real quick, this is all great, but I have a little bone to pick with Dottie because you're
oh
gonna
yeah,
have to
go ahead.
remind me. You're gonna have to remind me her actual birthday because the due date was September 9th, and
Correct.
I gave you 2 pieces of criteria as to why that was going to work best for me.
Yeah.
One, because I have another couple whose kid is born on September 9th, but number two, I just automatically go 9-9. That's easy.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah. Right.
and
Hmm.
we just food for thought. I'm not telling you what you got to do, but Danielle, if she wants to already plan the second birthday party, we just hosted a Oktoberfest
Saw that.
themed party. So, I mean, but it works because 9-9 German 9, whatever. But you're going to
Yeah.
have to remind me now moving forward when Dottie's birthday actually
Oh,
is.
I'll fully admit that 8/26/23 has no real so like Danielle's little brother, his birthday is 9/3/93. Now that's
That's
cool.
easy.
That's cool. And if Danielle's birthday is 7/11, mine is 11/7. That's adorable,
That's
right? Look
good.
at that.
Yes.
Meant to be there. No.
You
So
should all
free
just
slush.
have birthdays like mine, the greatest
Yeah, yeah.
American
Actually,
holiday.
actually, yes. Thank you for getting to that. Yes, exactly. So it is. So I can't even.
826 will figure out a way though.
So the other thing I messed up on, which whatever. There's a long list, but I pre-purchase. I figured 9-10 days into September was going to be close enough to pre-buy like birthday slash push present for Danielle, and so I bought her a sapphire ring because that's the birthstone for September.
Okay.
Well, Dottie wasn't born
Oh,
in September.
September. Shit.
Yeah, so now I got to remedy that situation, which is
Dottie has to remedy it.
yeah. Listen, like start. She's kind of been yeah.
She's got the course of
She's
her lifetime to make that up to you.
2.5 weeks in. She's kind of starting to rack up some bills. She's not exactly pulling her weight around here. So yeah, so I got to remedy that situation here soon. I will say that all of my buddies, including a number of those who listen to this podcast, were like, "Of course, your daughter would show up on the first Saturday of college football, like right in time to watch, the Notre Dame. What was that? The Notre Dame Navy. What game was in Ireland or whatever? Notre
It
Dame
was
Navy or
Notre Dame
whatever.
Navy.
Yeah,
Yes.
and so right on time. Didn't even miss kickoff. So that was great. Good for Dot there. she wanted to make sure that like she could fully immerse herself into the Jordan Love era of Green Bay Packer football. I appreciate that from her a lot as well. So yeah, she's despite the fact that she's really not pulling her weight in the monetary department yet, she really came at a good time where we didn't have to adjust our sports schedule. So that's huge. She worked great around all of my fantasy football drafts, which was incredible. It was like the only day of that 2 week span I didn't have a draft of some kind, pretty much. So that was super thoughtful of her as well. Yeah, really, she's really putting in some good minutes, to be honest with you. And I couldn't be more proud of her performance here so far.
Yeah, 8/26 is a pretty good day for a birthday because, like, moving forward, like you said, you're not going to have many sports conflicts. And again, like we say this kind of in jest because obviously the kids comes first. We understand that, but also Dottie gets to celebrate with her friends, which is tough. Having a summer birthday when you're
Mm-hmm.
younger in elementary school kind of stinks because you see all these other kids and your friends getting acknowledged, maybe even getting the day off. Not as an Indian kid, I would that would never fly, even if I had a birthday in like November or October. My parents would be like, "What the hell are you talking about? Go to school." But school or kids with birthdays during the school year, they get recognized. So Dottie's not going to be able to have that, but it's going to be a lot better in the long run because summer birthdays. No offense, Taylor, but your wife
Mm-mm.
knows this. Summer birthdays are the best in the long run.
Oh, totally. Yeah, like November 7th is mine, like I said, and it's kind of like
Brother, we got Thanksgiving to think about.
yeah, and I mean it's like that's LSU Alabama every year, so nobody really cares about like, oh great, you turned 34, like BFD, like who cares? We got LSU Alabama on today, like relax, So um, no, you're totally right. It's a good start, but a very weak finish to have like an early November birthday because yeah, everyone's like, dog, we don't have any money. We're traveling for Thanksgiving. We got Christmas presents. Halloween was last week. Like
Yeah,
that was yeah, right. You're sandwiched in between like three events that are significantly larger than your own birthday there. So not all of us can have like the premier, firework shooting birthday like yourself, Sue.
that's all right. That's all right. Well, I mean, let me pause one last time. Anything else we want to cover re
Well,
Dottie? Because right
oh,
now
okay.
it's September 13th. There's nothing going on.
No,
So, I mean, we got
no.
things to talk about, but we don't have to.
Yeah. No, Dottie's doing great. I will have to do a shameless self plug here, though. Um,
What?
and that is the second most significant thing that's happened in the 2 weeks is I was on HGTV House Hunters.
God,
So
yes, that is true. How did I forget even mentioning that?
it's
Great
been a
episode.
it's been a very long 2 weeks here for us. So not only were we hosting everybody for Dottie, but then we hosted not a lot of people, just some friends and family over for myself, my sister, and brother-in-law being featured on an episode of House Hunters. So that was pretty cool, a very unique experience. I'm going to be on another national TV show here in the next few months regarding home sales as well. So that would be that. There's more to come from that later. And I will say this: so House Hunters was cool. There's not a ton to say about it because I signed an NDA. Uh, so,
God damn it.
so,
That doesn't
uh,
help us here for this podcast.
well, if you want to know more, just text me. Let's say that. So I can't publicly disseminate what how the show works, but it was extremely cool. Excited to do another show like that again. And I will say this though, and you understand this because you're the driver of this podcast, and we live in a very social media driven world now. You're always, especially as a realtor, and I do my backyard beers thing, and that's funny, and it's whatever. But I've always tried to not be the guy that is like in your face every single day with make stories. I don't think anybody really cares. You just click through them and whatever. But like I try to not to be in your face all day every day posting whatever. But if you have an opportunity to be on national TV, you kind of got to toe that line of like, am I over emphasizing this or am I, because you don't do it. If you do it, you only do it to share it with people. There's no other reason to. I didn't get paid $1 to do the
Right.
thing. So it's like, you're trying to make these social media posts about being on it, but you're also like, you also don't want to go over the line where everyone's like, okay, Taylor, we get it. You're on TV for 4 minutes on HGTV. Like, big deal, whatever.
Well,
So you're always
I
trying.
don't.
You're just trying to walk that line of like, okay, how much is too much? You know.
I get what you're saying, and at least you have that thought in your head, because there are people, Instagram users, that will have the little ants on the line on their story of like a concert, and
Ugh.
it doesn't go off in their head that we do not give one singular f about it. It all like it's something that I've thought about as well, like during birthday posts when someone shouts you out on their birthday on their Instagram
Mm-hmm.
story, and then people repost it. Like, use Instagram however you want. I will never be that person that says, like, let me repost what Taylor or someone else, like my wife doesn't even shout me
Sure.
out on Instagram that much on my birthday. So why would I repost it? But I did take advantage of that. Like for my wedding day, I was like, I'm going to do this because it's once in a lifetime. Who knows how many more opportunities you're going to get there with HGTV. And the whole purpose, like you said, is to get your name out there. Who knows? Someone stumbles across it, and like you definitely got eyes that you don't know about, and they said some very mean tweets,
So
which you
funny.
read.
So
Okay,
funny.
I'm glad. Okay, can I tell you something, Taylor? I was watching the episode, of course, live, and by the way, I couldn't even focus really much on the content of the episode because I was just looking at your guys' faces laughing.
Oh, we had to watch it like 3 times before we even heard what we said.
Well,
Essentially.
I think you need to you need to have, or you needed to watch it just for the laughs, maybe a second time for the actual content, and then a third time for, I don't know how they do in,
The critiques or what would I have
yeah,
done differently? Yeah,
yeah,
right.
like at the end of PTI, like errors, omissions, things of that nature. But what was I saying there? Oh, the mean tweets. So while I was watching it, I did search that on Twitter, and I saw some mean things, and I was like, I really hope Taylor doesn't see this. And then you texted me the next day a screenshot of the tweet. I was like, all right, well, he's seen it, and it seems like he's rolling along with these
Oh, so
punches.
good. So if I go back to the social media thing, and I'm not, despite what it may look like at times, I'm absolutely not trying to be like the influencer, whatever. Like it's just a business thing, right? You know, and so um, I hate that we live in a 2023 world where in my mind, when I was looking at these bad tweets, and they were, I mean, some were mean, some were funny, whatever. It doesn't, no big deal. Um, but in my back of my mind, I was like, God, this is great content. And I just hate in a way that is what it like had appeared in the back of my mind, is where like, uh, homoerotic like tweets about my brother-in-law and I, and how my sister's like a beard for us and like stuff like that, and how he doesn't wear pants, which might be true. I don't know. Can't confirm or deny that. He does discuss that on HGTV. But it was just really funny that, I was like, oh, we could run with this. That's actually why I was like, okay, I can make one more like reference to House Hunters here, because this is like a funny enough thing. And I think everybody involved learned that there are literally hundreds, and Sub, you can confirm this. There are literally hundreds of people hate tweeting House Hunters
It's
live
so
every
weird.
night. It's crazy.
It is so weird that there is a corner of Twitter that, like you said, is spending their time making fun of and being rude to House Hunters guests.
Yeah. I
Like,
mean, as a
this isn't
guy
Kadarius Toney dropping 5 passes.
who had an article written about him by a Pulitzer Prize winning writer referencing his poor tweets, my poor tweets, if you remember that, um, from the Packers 2014 NFC Championship game loss against the Seattle Seahawks. Um, you know, you got to take it. If you can't, it's give and take, right? You can't you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen type of deal. So,
I
um,
suppose, but Brandon
and also
Bostic,
that tweet was completely innocuous and like virginal compared to like 10,000 other tweets about Brandon Bostic compared to mine. I said,
yeah,
Brandon Bostic, go to hell, and got an entire article written about me by a Pulitzer Prize winning writer. Like, there were significantly worse tweets about that there were significantly worse tweets about Aaron Rodgers ending his career. And then I thought that was kind of funny that's the one thing I've been flamed about the most on Twitter is that Brandon Bostic, go to hell. That was the number one thing I've been flamed about on Twitter. Kind of funny.
it comes around. I believe
Yeah.
in karma. Again, as an Indian
So
guy, I believe in karma, baby.
so yeah,
Uh,
Yeah, but when it comes to tweets, yeah, it's like, okay, I tweet a lot, you tweet a lot. We've been on the ground floor of Twitter, you and I, like legitimately. Like, when we just have our 14th or 15th
Well, I'm
year
just never going to call it
anniversary.
X. Like that's how, like
Well,
it's
no,
always
no,
going to
no,
be Twitter.
because it's not X. Yeah, right.
Right.
But I mean,
Right.
we've seen the whole Twitter world build, really. So it's like, yeah, I can't be mad if I'm tweeting things about people on TV. So why should I be mad about other people tweeting things about people on TV? So
Yeah. Well, look, that's a good perspective to have. Any other items you want to discuss before we get into actual college basketball? Is there a certain football team and player, potentially fan base, that you want to address?
oh, there's boy. I'm so sorry that the half an hour of this episode is essentially just about what's happening in my life. I apologize to whoever's still listening to me
It's
ramble on
been a
about
bit.
this.
It's been some really big developments. Don't worry. We've dedicated. What is this episode 210? Yeah, this is going to be episode 210. I would argue the previous 209 were majority college basketball. All right, and we're going to get back to college basketball this episode and even the episodes upcoming. But a lot has
Well,
happened.
and this is actually probably the. I mean, we'll for sure have football references and discussions from here, but
Yeah,
starting soon, we'll start to get into the real nitty gritty of previews and new faces, new places, all that. Now that college sports has really ramped up here, but there's a couple specific listeners that I won't call out by name to this program. One of them being really a very important part of your life and friend group, who is a Bears fan and a Justin Fields fan specifically. But boy, man, what a fun weekend this last week was for me in the NFL. Like, whoo, just the amount of shit that got talked to me for the last 6 months, every single day of my life. Literally every day of my life. Jordan Love sucks. You guys are idiots. The Bears division. Justin Fields. Justin Fields had the most money bet on him in Vegas this summer for MVP. what? Who? What? Like,
that's
talk
kind of
about it.
crazy.
It's ridiculous, right? Now, that may have changed as the season got closer, but there was a point in July where, like, he had an absurd amount of the vote. I'm not just going to make up stat. It was a ton, though, and it was the most at one point. Boy, same old Bears, though. It's September 13th, and the Bears still suck, as we like to say here in Packerland. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the Packers are going to make the playoffs. Not going to sit here and tell you that they're going to win the Super Bowl. Not going to sit here and tell you that Jordan Love's a Hall of Famer, whatever. But what I saw from week one was the antithesis of every single thing that every single person had told Packer fans for the last 6 months and really for the last 3 years, right? Couldn't have had a more perfect scenario than just smoking the Bears. Week one, Jordan Love looks about as good as you would want him to look in that situation, especially if you compare it to the other quarterback play we saw this week. Jordan Love, highest quarterback rating in the NFL through week one. I mean, not sure what else you would be looking for from a Packers fan. And boy, just the sad tears from the other NFC North fans. It's just so tasty, I mean, it's so good. Again, I mean, all I'm looking for this year was just the signs that this was good, progressing where we wanted it to go in Packerland. And I don't think we could have gotten a better indication that that Jordan Love is going to be a competent NFL quarterback. And I think one play specifically for anyone who watched the game where he fumbled the snap. No panic, no nothing. Looked down the field, set his feet, delivered a ball to Luke Musgrave, another rookie, or not another rookie because Jordan Love's not a rookie, but you know what I'm saying. That alone right there was like, okay, this guy has no panic, super poised. Justin Fields out there running around like it's his first game of high school football. Dude cannot throw. Dude looks like my buddy Travis Church throwing with his left hand out there. Dude had 37 pass attempts and only threw like 2 more than 10 yards down the field for a third-year NFL quarterback. Like, come on, dog. So, and again, look at some of the other quarterbacks. Josh Allen, supposed to be world beater, making the same mistakes again, over and over and over and over. 39 turnovers in his last 19 games. But boy, I will say this. So very happy for Packers. So we can leave it at that. I will say, because this has been the number one question I've gotten in the last 48 hours. I'm legitimately sad for Aaron Rodgers. 100%. I love Aaron Rodgers, favorite athlete of all time, along with Tiger Woods. all 85% of my greatest sports memories are via Aaron Rodgers. So I never really got the hate aspect of it. I'm sure there's obviously a disappointment part of it, leading up to him starting with the Jets. But boy, it was like, it was legitimately sad. I think, I wasn't rooting
Yeah.
for the Jets. I didn't want the Jets to win the Super Bowl by any means. I wasn't rooting for that, but I also didn't want them to go 2-15 and Aaron Rodgers, sorry, this isn't supposed to be fun, but for Aaron Rodgers to limp off into the sunset like poorly. But man, that's just what an unfortunate thing. Just because as a sports fan, as a general sense, strip all of our biases away. As a sports fan, that was the best story we had in the NFL and maybe in all of sports for this year. And just 4 plays in, just taken away. One last thing, even though I've said that 3 times, is let me go back to being a dick here. For my whole life, there are 2 things that Packer fans have always complained about, and that's that we only draft offensive linemen and no skill position players. Well, there's a reason for that. And last night or 2 nights ago, there was no clearer reason as to why the Packers do what they do than what happened. Aaron, 4 plays, 4 hits, guys out. I'm not saying it's not his fault by any means, but I think it is malpractice that the Jets brought in a 40-year-old quarterback and put him behind you, me, and the girl down the street to protect him.
So I will say, Taylor, I love you, but you are also one of those people that wanted wide receivers. I got a tweet pulled up.
No, totally. No,
As
no,
long
no.
as you know that.
I am, but there's a
As
reason
long
why.
as you know. Yeah, you're a fan. No, I
There's
get
a
that.
reason why I don't. Yeah, speaking of bad tweets, I'm sure you can find 1,000 of me criticizing the Packers, right? And I think in some situations that's true, but there's a reason, I guess, that why. Some people think that like Jordan Love being potentially good and the Packers being potentially good is luck, and I'm like, well, why is it luck? If you continue to do the same thing over and over, is it luck that the Bears suck every year? No.
Yeah,
So
no,
why would it be? So why would it be luck that the Packers are good every year, right? Like you can't have it one way and not the other, I guess.
I don't know if it's necessarily luck that the Packers are good every single year. I think what people are most, I guess, upset about is that you've had 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks spanning like 30 years. That is insane, right? Teams don't have that. 2 back to back. And now Jordan Love looks great. They're terrified that this could be a potential third. And I know you mentioned that he's not, you don't have expectations, or you're not going to say that he is just yet. To the Rodgers point, it was really sad. I'm not the biggest Aaron Rodgers fan. I always hated, first of all, when people even tried to put him in the same group as like Peyton Manning, let alone Tom Brady. I still think there's like very, very clear levels to that. And Aaron Rodgers doesn't belong in that category. But that's not like Rodgers never did anything to put himself in that category. He's never really said anything to upset folks. In that respect, he said some other things that will definitely upset some people. But it's just sad because I don't want to watch Zach Wilson in like 4 more primetime games. I don't need to watch that. And I'm a big proponent of these big market teams being good. The Giants look horrible. The Yankees are terrible. The Mets are terrible. The Knicks were okay, I guess. Brooklyn was not really a real threat. Okay. The Clippers lost in round 1. I'm thinking of these big market teams, and I want the Jets. You see that their defense actually came to play. And we've seen what Garrett Wilson can do. Good Lord, what a catch a couple nights ago. Garrett Wilson's incredible. They have everything else, and they knew they had everything else. That's why they got the one missing piece. And then within 4 plays, he's gone. And now we're subject to watching Zach Wilson throw what I think was supposed to be a fade to Garrett Wilson. And Garrett Wilson ended up making chicken salad out of chicken shit, right? And look, if it produces catches like that, I guess that's a win. But I don't want to watch. I don't want to watch Zach Wilson, and that was the biggest thing that came to me. And of course, I feel bad for Aaron Rodgers coming off of Achilles. He's going to be 40 years old. Who knows what the future holds for him? And I think he was genuinely motivated and rejuvenated there in New York, and then for it to come crashing down in 4 plays really does stink. But the biggest thing, again, I'm being super selfish. I don't want to watch Zach Wilson in prime time moving forward. And I'm really hoping we can flex the Jets out of those
Well, and
games.
here's the problem, and this has kind of been an under talked about thing in the NFL here before we move on to actual college basketball. Offense is going to be way down in the NFL this year. The defenses around the NFL are extremely good. We're in like a golden era of like pass rushers, corners, stuff like that. And if you look at the quarterback play across week one, you can take that Jordan Love having the highest cute quarterback rating of week one kind of however you want to, right? You can say, oh man, that means that he played really well and maybe he's the truth. It also means that, oh man, like we had a lot of bad quarterback play. Burrow sucked. Josh Allen sucked. I mean, pretty much everyone outside of Herbert and Tua in the same game
Yeah.
kind of sucked. You got Aaron Rodgers now gone, of course. Kirk Cousins is 36. Jimmy G's 34. Derek Carr's like 30. I mean, these guys are aging. And then you look at like some of the rookies. Anthony Richardson looked awesome. I really like him, but Stroud looked terrible. Bryce Young looked terrible.
Bryce Young had a tough time. I will say this, and this is I'm not being facetious or joking. Like Mac Jones actually looked pretty good.
He balled.
He had a terrible pick. Like that was a really bad pick, but he looked really good. And I actually think on the flip side to your point about defense, like the Pats have a top 5, top 7 defense, I think, in the league. Jalen Hurts didn't look like a world beater, like an MVP candidate that we've seen Jalen Hurts, like a guy who barely lost the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. So I think to your point about that, yeah, like the defenses have certainly ratcheted up, but isn't that what all the old heads and the crotchety folks wanted? That's certainly what they want in basketball.
Well, so there's going to be a lot of people this year saying that they have a top 5, top 7 defense, because in a normal year that would be true. But in a year like this, we got to probably alter our perspective, because I kind of thought, okay, the Packers do have a decent likelihood of having a top 10 type of defense this year. Now, it looks like week one they potentially do, but this year that might only be the 14th ranked defense because there are so many good defense. I mean, we're talking about like the Lions having a very good defense and the Browns having a very good defense, and like teams that just absolutely do not ever have these things available to them. When even those teams have very good defenses, that the defenses in the NFL have taken a step up from normal years.
Yeah, you're right. All right, Taylor, let's move on now to some actual college hoops talk. I want to talk about this potential competition to the NIT. Taylor, I don't know if you saw this, but this was a report from College Hoops insider Seth Davis. He said on Monday morning that Fox Sports is attempting to arrange a new postseason basketball tournament in Vegas for teams who miss the big dance. All right. Fox Sports is in negotiations with several power conferences to hold a postseason men's basketball tournament in Vegas featuring teams that did not qualify for the NCAA tournament. Discussions are ongoing, but the current vision is for the event to include 16 teams that would play at T-Mobile Arena during the final week of March following the NCAA tournament's Elite Eight games. Plus, there is going to be plenty of NIL opportunities for the players who do participate. If the tournament happens, Fox plans to encourage its corporate partners to set up name, image, and likeness deals for players who are competing. However, Davis does note the network will not be able to pay players directly due to NCAA rules. As for the field itself, Seth Davis says that the top teams from the Big 12, Big 10, and Big East who do not qualify for the NCAA tournament would be required to play in this new event. So that is the long and short of it, the gist of it. Taylor, I'm going to get your thoughts here on just generally if this is a good thing. Do we fear for the NIT? Me personally, Taylor, real quick, I love it. I'm all for it because it doesn't mess with the number one thing. It doesn't mess with the bread and butter. It doesn't mess with the NCAA tournament. We've seen a couple of years ago and ongoing how they've expanded the field and how there's continued talks of expansion for the field, right? If we have something like this come in, that kind of eliminates or at least quells some of the talk about expansion for the fields. Because if you're picking from the Big 12, the Big East, and I think it was the Big 10 that they had mentioned, whatever conferences have deals with Fox, those are usually the teams, if they don't make the NCAA tournament as it stands today, they would if they expanded it. So I look forward to some of those games with like a Keisei Tominaga coming from Nebraska and playing in Vegas. But again, the main thing for me, I'm okay with this. I like change. I don't mind it at all. And I'm all for NIL deals. I'm all for players getting paid. But if it's not messing with the NCAA tournament, go for it. I truly don't care, because as much as I do love college basketball, and I might get skewered for this, I don't even tweet feet about the NIT, because after a long ass season of the regular season, tweeting at like 11:30 a Pepperdine game, uh, I do not have the energy to tweet about the NIT. Obviously, do it for the NCAA tournament, but that is where my priority lies. So if this means that we get, let's say, a different format, I don't know if it's necessarily additional basketball because it'll take away from the NIT field. But if we can get a different, let's say, view or different teams, I'm all for it. I don't see the big issue with this, because at the end of the day, it is kind of inconsequential.
Oh yeah, I mean, we're all just here for entertainment. It's the only reason we're making this podcast is for entertainment, and that's what I think a lot of people forget about sports in general is, when things change or, certain programs are more on TV or whatever. I mean, it's a numbers driven game, and it's all for entertainment, no matter who's on. So I think this is a smart thing for in so many different ways. Number one is the Pac-12 is going to be vacating Vegas next year because it no longer exists. So not that it would it be happening the same week, but now you've got kind of like a hole to fill in the basketball trips to Vegas. Now the Mountain West, West Coast Conference, there's 5 conference tournaments there, but I mean, one Pac-12 championship game gets as much as the whole West Coast Conference tournament does, so that kind of doesn't matter. So, and none of them, the Pac-12 is the only one in T-Mobile Arena. So that's number one. And so that's smart. And that's going to allow, especially with a lot of those Big 12 schools being bordering Nevada. I'd like to think Arizona's not going to be in this next year going forward, right? But you got like an ASU.
Might.
Yeah, it was ASU, strong candidate for that. Utah is usually pretty good, but they're a strong candidate for that. And Colorado, not a border state, but close as well. So that's number one. Number two, sports betting is one of the largest rising industries we have in our country right now. So why not give the degenerates like myself something else to gamble on in the middle of the week, right? And then also just the money that would be driven. So you can sports bet from almost anywhere now if your state is legalized, but Vegas is always going to be synonymous with that. So why not throw that in Vegas? And then number three, and these two things kind of go together, right? So if you look at some of the teams from those 3 conferences that didn't make the tournament last year, or I'm pretty sure didn't make the tournament last year, you got Ohio State, Minnesota, you've got Oklahoma, Texas Tech, you've got DePaul, Georgetown, Butler. These are all big time programs, right? And other teams that have had down years recently, like Michigan's, like North Carolina's. If some teams, even outside of these 3 conferences, well, who knows? The ACC might blow up any minute too, So I think that this is a smart play, because I think they're getting out ahead of the fact that these conferences are getting bigger, which means that there's going to be less teams potentially that are going to have good records, just given the gauntlet. Like, think of what the gauntlet of the Big 12 could become if they added a North Carolina and a Florida State or whatever. Then you're talking about even 2 more teams, right? That would have worse records. And then going along with that, NIL has evened out college basketball in a lot of ways. The best teams are not so much more dominant than the 65th best team in the country anymore. Or in this case, what would be the 70th best team in the country, right? So you're going to have a lot more, not that Alabama's a bad basketball program by any means, but we certainly haven't thought they were world beaters until this last year. So every time an Alabama or a school like that is not a traditional basketball school becomes great because of NIL, and not just because of NIL, but because of code, all that type of stuff. Talent is, there's never been more talent in basketball than right now. You're going to have more of those big name teams that with super strong fan bases. Especially in the Midwest, especially in the East, where in March, you're certainly not guaranteed to have very nice weather. So I think this is really smart to get out ahead of what's coming in college basketball, and that's more parity, and that's more opportunity for big name teams to come play in Vegas if they're not in the tournament. It's not going to be worth anything. Doesn't matter to anyone. But, you never know how things go over time. In our minds, nothing's ever going to overtake the NCAA tournament. That's for sure. And I'm not saying that's ever going to happen with this tournament. But at one point, the NIT was the NCAA tournament. So that was the one you would count for national championships, was the NIT. Our grandpa's age, right, 70, 80 years ago. But more competition, and this is way better than like the this, what is it, the CBB, the C, what the hell is that other,
CBI. Yeah. I mean,
CBI, yeah, right, yeah, like, yeah, exactly, and
so
those little tournaments, so I think it's great because you're gonna get. This is guaranteed to have 6 or 7 big name college basketball programs, not big name, but larger fan bases involved in it.
yeah, so I think this is really good. The more I look at this, the more I like it for the player because I had mentioned the NIL aspect of it, and you had touched on that also. But also, and I might be reading too much into this, but also the level of competition is going to be better if you are on a team that just missed out on the NCAA tournament, playing probably in this Vegas tournament as opposed to in the NIT. In the NIT, we see a lot of the teams that just missed the cut playing against like directional schools or a very, very small school that maybe had an average conference season. Uh, and they wipe the floor. Look at the list of names, champions of the NIT the last few years. All right, North Texas, that's a small school, fine. But then you got Xavier in 22, Memphis in 21. There was a COVID year. 19 was Texas, 18 Penn State, 17 TCU, and then 2016 was George Washington. But then you go through that again. Stanford the year prior to that, 14 Minnesota, 13 Baylor, 12 Stanford. Like these are power schools. These are power schools, is what they are. I don't know what Stanford's going to be at the end of the day. But the point that I'm making is in the NIT, the big dogs will always win, usually for the most part, because they're playing against the smaller, worse schools. And I guess you can make the argument, well, why do teams win like 15-2 in the NCAA tournament? That's a completely different beast. All right. The vibes are different. The juice, the aura is completely different. The prep is different, I'm sure. Okay. But the NIT, I'm open to looking at this from a new perspective, and I just really think this is a good opportunity for kids who play in those high level conferences that are saying to themselves, "Damn, just missed out on the NCAA tournament. I don't know if scouts or whoever's looking at me draft people are saying are going to be impressed that a kid from Xavier demolished someone from like I don't know Coppin State." That's just an example. Shout out to Juan Dixon and Coppin State. But you see what I'm saying there, Taylor?
Yeah.
Xavier versus, let's say, a Texas Tech in a postseason game, which it technically is, sounds a little bit more palatable.
So my question going the other way, maybe let me be devil's advocate here for a second. We hear a lot of complaints about bowl season for college football. Oh, there's too many bowls. There's too many bowls, which I never understand. Then just don't watch. Why? Like, what is it offensive to you that
Literally,
someone?
none of those bowls mean anything except for New Year's Six.
Right. It's just kind of funny that like people are like, oh, well, this is so stupid that this is. Well, then don't. Nobody's like, there's no gun to head. You have to watch the.
Who's asking you to take like the I don't know. I'm looking at a product in my like the dog
the Frosted
pillow
Flakes
bowl.
bowl
Yeah,
or what? Yeah, right. Yeah,
get out of here.
Yeah. So, but I wonder. I wonder if there's going to be at some point where a number of people are like, well, what? So everybody just gets to keep playing, So it's like, okay, whatever. Those people are going to be annoying because they just are. But the other thing that I would think is it might. This isn't devil's advocate, but it might give at least a little more because we just talked about all the teams that win the NIT, right? But without looking it up, there's probably just as many big teams that just kind of give up.
Quit.
Yes, and that's been a school we've rooted for too. The one time we played in the NIT, I think in our fanhood,
Kentucky lost to Robert Morris with Nerlens Noel, and you could tell they did not give.
And Arizona lost at McHale to Bucknell. Like a 17-16 Bucknell team too. Yes. So, but I wonder if with this type of competition, like let's just say an Ohio State and a Michigan both missed the tournament one year, very not likely, but very plausible, right? That you say, hey, okay, guys, like we got to get up for this. This is still our rival. At least a little more competition. And then the other thing is, I wonder if we'll see, like in bowl games, if you're a Ben Simmons or why can't I think of the number one pick from Washington? That sucked. No. That couldn't shoot when he got to the NBA, hurt his shoulder.
Markelle Fultz.
Markel Fultz, right?
I thought you meant
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
whistle.
yeah. Yeah, sorry. Markel Fultz. If you're those guys, you're probably not playing in this, right? Like, so that would be interesting. But bowl games are extremely important for college football from a practice perspective. And if you list the schools that won the NIT, think of how many of those schools ended up making the tournament like the next year, within a year after. Xavier, TCU, Texas, all schools that went to like Elite Eights.
It's
Yeah,
a real launching pad for sure. I believe
yeah.
in that.
Oh, totally. So you're going to get a lot of those freshmen, a lot of those type of guys where you might actually, I don't know, this might be stretching it way too far because we don't even know the competition or the bracket or anything here. But I wonder if it'll be a way that good coaches can keep a lot of those guys who are going to transfer or want to transfer kind of at home and say, listen, I know that you sat behind Markel Fultz all year. Well, Markel Fultz isn't playing. You're the freshman. You only average 8 minutes a game, but now you're starting for the next 5 games of our season. You're running with the ones. I don't know if that matters. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe I'm looking way, way, way too far into this, but at least there's going to be more competition for players that didn't get a lot of PT during the season to evaluate who they're playing with, if they fit within the system and if they have legitimate, and then going into the draft, if they have legitimate ability to make the draft as well or make the NBA as well.
I think that's a fair point. And I'm looking a little too far ahead into this as well. Look, none of this is finalized, by the way. This is all just pie in the sky potentially. It's not even pie in the sky. I don't care if it happens or not. But if it does happen, I think it's cool. The thing I will say, and I'm going to say the quiet part out loud, and it's so funny, mid-major runs in the NCAA tournament are so adorable, amazing. It's like that Gordon Ramsay meme where he's like, "Oh, you beautiful thing," versus "you dumb donkey." Runs from mid majors in the NIT, I don't care. I'm sorry, man. Like if you win a couple games in the NIT as a mid major, that is not the same as a St. Peter's winning a couple games or an Oral Roberts winning a couple games, right? Like it is that Gordon Ramsay meme of if the same level mid majors winning the NCAA tournament versus the NIT, I'm gonna look at one with bated breath and amazement, and the other like, why are you still playing? Go away. Stop clogging up my ESPN feed. So I mean, we're gonna get with this proposal that Seth Davis has reported on. It's gonna be bigger teams. So the point that I'm making, and this might make me a terrible person, college basketball person. I don't care about your mid-major school if you're in the NIT or any postseason game that's not the NCAA tournament. Sorry.
Yep. It's I'm going to bring up this school just because I like to hate on them because I have a lot of friends and family who are alumni from there. It's the Boise State argument for football. Like, guys, I don't care about you, and nobody does. And you don't want to admit to, and you'll argue with us till you're blue in the face about how, oh, we get this many viewers on TV, we get this. Guy, no, if you guys went away tomorrow, nobody would miss you and nobody cares about you. And so that's what you're going to get a lot of those type of schools that get in that are now going to play in the real line NIT when the Ohio States and Michigans are playing in this tournament. And be like, well, our school's not big. Well, I'm sorry. I don't know what else do you want? This is the world. Grow up. Welcome to the real world. Like nobody feels bad for you because you're less apt for this type of competition than other schools. That's just it. Ohio State, Michigan's going to get 3 million viewers in this dumb little tournament. Wichita State. No, that's not even a good example.
No,
yeah,
Wichita State. Yeah, they'll move needles.
Coppin State, Utah Valley is going to get 6, and that's just what it is. There's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it. You can argue with us, and we're not going to feel bad for you. Unfortunately, I'm right there with you on that. Where those guys, you're going to hear the chirps about that. Well, the NIT doesn't matter anymore. Well, I don't care. Make the real tournament then, and then I'll care about you.
Absolutely. The only thing I will say, and I'm not coming down on you, but shout out Coach Roberto Bergerson from Boise State basketball. Yeah. He's our
basketball.
guy.
Boise State
basketball we care about. Yes.
Right. But you can understand the argument. It's like, listen.
Okay, I know.
Right.
I know. I just always got to show love to our guys that came onto the program. Because speaking of irrelevant, we're probably pretty irrelevant, but we're working. We're working, baby. All right, Taylor. Let's move on to another couple quick hitters before we have a little fun. Everyone's loving Colorado. All right. Everyone's loving Prime 2-0 Buffs, baby. I'm expecting them to be in a New Year's 6. I don't care. I'm having a lot of fun. I also think you're a huge loser potentially racist if you're not like having fun with this, and if you keep no, dude. I've seen so many people like, oh, screw
Oh no,
Dion,
no,
like he's having
I
too
know,
much fun with this.
I understand. Go on.
I mean, like, dude, if you're not having fun with this, I think you are probably 99% a loser, but there is probably that 1% that could just straight up be racist. But I digress. Like, if you're not having fun with this, I don't like, what do you, he's the ultimate showman. He's a blast. And the reason I bring him up is because I want to be the first to jump on the Colorado hoops bandwagon. All right. This thing is infectious, but I've been a high on Colorado ever since they brought in Eddie Lampkin and Tristan Da Silva was returning and KJ Simpson was returning. I really like this roster. Now, you have the polar opposite in Deion Sanders patrolling their sideline, and Tad Boyle, not very charismatic. He's a pretty solid coach, but he's a bit of a wet blanket. He's tough. There's not much with, he wears beige suits. He's not as cool as Deion Sanders, but he's pretty effective. Okay. But I love this team. And I know that Deion and Prime is going to be so infectious. I mean, we already saw Colorado basketball alums Derek White and Spencer Dinwiddie there with some top recruits who are at Folsom Stadium. And I think just on talent alone, Colorado and the team cohesion, I think Colorado basketball is going to surprise a lot of people. I'm not seeing their name coming up in potential dark horse tournament teams nearly enough. And again, I want to highlight these names. Tristan Da Silva is a beast. He has been awesome. One of the best players in the Pac-12 for the last couple of years. KJ Simpson, I tweeted this last year, is the best player nobody knows about, I think, in the entire country. They play late, and he's on a largely forgotten team. But KJ Simpson was recruited by some big-time schools. He ends up at Colorado after Sean Miller was dismissed from Arizona. But KJ Simpson has the type of game where out of nowhere, he can just get like 12 points in 5 to 7 minutes. He's awesome. And then you know how much I love Eddie Lampkin, an absolute bruiser, some guy who's going to bring toughness and grit and attitude to the front line of the Buffaloes. I want to be the first because I think a lot of people are jumping on the Deion bandwagon now, which is fine. I'm not going to gatekeep, but I want to be one of the first people to jump on the Colorado basketball bandwagon as well. And so Deion's success just kind of got me thinking about this.
I can't believe I didn't get a big boy grilling on the roof reference with your boy Lampkin
Eddie?
there. Yeah. So, no, you have to take advantage of this hype when it's around your program. I mean, it is the number one talked about thing in sports right now. Well, maybe Aaron Rodgers now, but yeah, I mean, previous even to this NFL weekend or during this NFL weekend, the number one bet on sporting event was Colorado football. And so kind of like, I guess my discussion starting the program with HGTV, it's like, if you got to strike while the iron's hot, like if the camera's on you, you have to share. Right. So they just got I think you may have just referenced this, but yeah, they just got a 4-star recruit today or yesterday from Dallas, Detail Boogie, a big man, 6'10". His name is Dorian Onwuchekwa. And literally the recruiting article says they took advantage of the VIP laden Colorado Buffaloes football game. And it's like, yeah, if you go to that, I mean, you and I have had this discussion all the time when we were students. You'd bring basketball recruits in and be like, oh, great. 4-8 Arizona is playing 3-9 Oregon State. What a great game to bring this 5-star future NBA player to. And you're like, ugh, campus is just dead, like whatever. But then you got college game day here coming up this weekend there. Why not? If you're Tad, you're on the phone with every single college or high school recruit you've ever talked to in your life. You're like, yo, you guys want to come to Boulder this weekend? We'll get you backstage passes to college game day. I think you're totally right, though, in the sense that in terms of athletic departments who know what they're doing, it is a rising tide floats all ships type of deal. I love what they're doing there at Colorado. I really, I don't think that I was a loser in the sense that I was trying to fight the hype that was coming before the season. I was kind of like, I didn't think they were going to be the worst team in the world, like a lot of people did, but I was like, okay, let's temper. And I actually kind of think they should still temper expectations because their offensive line is so bad and they're going to get demolished by like USC's offensive line. But whatever, their stars are real stars is kind of the point here, though. Like Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders, those guys would be starters and stars on every one of the 126, I think, D1 college football programs in the country, right? So their stars are legit stars, and you got to take advantage of that. So yeah, a rising tide floats all ships. I love that they don't even have enough money to pay Dion, but they were like, "Oh, don't worry, it'll come. I'm coming. I'm or whatever he said in his initial meeting there." And I don't care that you and me talked about this a lot over the last 2 weeks. I don't care that he kicked 75 people out of the program. Don't
Yeah.
care at all. I mean, I'm sorry to say that. It doesn't matter to me. If you don't, we have a lot of discussions about Arizona's football coach Jed Fish trying to turn around a program. Well, Jed Fish doesn't have name cachet, and that's fine. And we understand that. It's a slower process than what Dion is. If you're Deion Sanders and your son is a 5-star recruit and a future NFL star potentially, you got to take advantage of all that. You have to turn the program over that quickly because you have the power to do so. And you're probably one of the very, very few people, not even just coaches, one of the very few people in sports that could do that. So I'm all for it. I just hope, going back to the basketball part of it, right? I hope that Tad Boyle can be charismatic and likable enough to take advantage of this.
I'm not holding my breath on that.
Because there are
maybe to take advantage of it, but I don't think he's going to be charismatic.
No, but there are a lot, you look at that and you're like, I hope the Colorado athletic department doesn't look back and be like, shoot, should we have like Shaka Smart would be like the perfect person to coach their basketball program right now. Just like you're someone with that mentality, or like, not the same personality, but like a Jay Wright, someone just cool as shit, right? To be like, hey, welcome to the show. You guys want to come party with this, and in our suits? Someone like that. I don't think that's Tad Boyle.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how many other coaches could fit. Bill Self would be amazing in that situation, but I think he's got an okay team he coaches now.
Bill Self's doing all right.
But a coach with a little more of that like panache, let's call it, that could really take full advantage of it. Tad Boyle's not going to appear in TikToks with Shedeur and Dion. And as dumb as that sounds, if they had a coach that could, it would probably be even more helpful.
Yeah. Well, I can already picture it now. Maybe a late January game where Colorado, they're not a first or second place team in the Pac-12, but they're in the top half. And maybe they're hosting UCLA or they're hosting a good team. And at halftime, Dion, Shedeur, and the Buffaloes come out with whatever bowl trophy that they won. Place goes absolutely insane. Colorado gets a signature resume building win, and we hear their name on Selection Sunday. That is what I'm picturing. Also, speaking of Colorado football and head coaches, man, did they get, I don't want to say lucky, but they made out all right. Mel Tucker in the crosshairs. We don't need to dive into it. Just go look up Mel Tucker, but he is in the crosshairs right now. And of course, he was the head coach at Colorado, and he left for more money and a better opportunity at Michigan State. Colorado fans felt rightfully jilted. They went through some terrible, maybe a year or two. And now look at it. Dion's got him top 15, 2-0, the talk of the sports world, like you had mentioned. And Mel Tucker may not have a job by the time this episode's published.
And kind of potentially, allegedly, rightfully so. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Of course, before we move on, it's just so poetic, I guess, that the Pac-12 is going to have their very best football season ever this year. 8
Don't break us up. Who's been advocating to break us up, man? Not me. Not this guy. We're nasty.
Listen, I don't think anyone wanted to break up. Okay, I think there's just other factors involved here.
Yeah. Well, they're good though. Yeah, I mean, the Pac-12 is looking good on the gridiron. All right, Taylor. One last thing before I want to test a little bit of your knowledge and have some fun. I don't know if you saw this or not, but the transfer rules and the transfer guidelines. Of course, that's been a hot topic for the past 5 years, it seems like. And so last week, I think it was Mac Brown, upon the decision that his player, Tez Walker, for the Carolina Tar Heels football team could not play, just obliterated, really went scorched earth in a official statement to the NCAA. But here is one thing that I think has crossed the line. The NCAA, this is from NCAA.org, all right? Quote, the NCAA is aware of violent and possibly criminal threats recently directed at committee members involved in regulatory decisions. The national office is coordinating with law enforcement and will continue to do whatever possible to support the volunteers who serve on these committees. I got to tell you, I'm not here to cape and stand up for the NCAA, but if there's one way that you want me to do it, if you're going to have to force my hand, it's threatening them with violence and criminal activity over transfer guidelines. And an extra layer to this, these people are volunteers. Who the hell would volunteer for this? Go volunteer at a soup shelter. Go volunteer literally doing anything else. I'm being dead serious. This is the most thankless job, and it's not even a job. But let's pump the like. I know we're upset and angry over a lot of the transfer rules, which, by the way, some coaches have played a part in, including Mac Brown. But violence and criminal activity, take it easy. I am on the side of the NCAA here. I don't think they need to be the brunt of violence.
Well, it kind of the first thing that strikes me about this is kind of like how NFL refs that's not their real job. Like, why is this a volunteer position? You're literally like ruining kids' lives potentially, or making them, from, and these are people within athletic programs who are just volunteering to, I think that's dumb. With the amount of money that the NCAA produces, controls, however you want to phrase that per year, when every single college basketball or college football coach in the country is the very highest paid state employee of every single state in the country except for Alaska. There's no reason why the outcome of all this stuff should be by people who aren't even being paid to do so. And why is this not with the amount of shit that has to go through these channels? How do these volunteers have any time to do their actual jobs? Like, there's thousands of transfer like stuff that they have to work through. Secondly, why are you threatening these people? These guys are volunteers. Pay them off like adults. Like, go write them a $10,000 check. What, like, that's gonna move the needle. Not like some dude on the internet threatening you. Like, someone write a check and give it to the dude who's in charge. And like, yeah, that's gonna convince me. Wrong, right? Who cares with the NCAA at this point? None of it's wrong. None of it's right. It's all just kind of like no man's land. So just be an adult. Write a check and pay someone off if this is what you want. Don't threaten to kill them. That's going to get you in trouble. 10 grand, nobody cares about that. They're going to be like, oh, yeah, okay. He's a booster. Of course, that's what he did.
Smart man's game, Taylor. I love that. I'm just trying to think of if we go into a time portal, right? We got Henry Hill, the mobster, who was fixing games with the BC basketball team. And like Hunter Dickinson or some stud who wants to transfer to BC. They're like, no, he can't be immediately eligible. Got Henry Hill just slipping some money, some bribery to those poor volunteers. I don't know. I'm trying to picture or intertwine it here with theater and what we've seen in the past. But yeah, I mean, violence, take it easy, man. This isn't life or death.
No, it's just, yeah, I don't understand. And it's so many easy. Let's not get too deep into it. There's so many easy ways you could pay these people off too. Like, there wouldn't even need to be a paper trail because you wouldn't even need to pay them off to such a degree that it would even be like a tax filing. Keep it under $9,999. Nobody would care. And have you and two buddies pay him that? Nobody would even care. You wouldn't even, tax ramifications would be nil on that either. Come on, let's be adults about this. We're not kids threatening people with guns.
Yeah.
Like, let's think of like smarter, more convenient ways to do this.
Let's get a bit more of a refined, polished approach to getting these players to be able to be immediately eligible. I like that. All right, Taylor, let's get out of here on some trivia. All right. Are you a grid guy? I am a grid whore. So good.
I am. I will say that my performances over the last several weeks have been very poor. But the college basketball ones, even for guys that are college basketball fans, are tough. Because just there's so many college basketball players, college football players too. I think the NFL ones get a little easier, just simply because their names are more notable. Baseball ones, boy, you got to be a super nerd for some of those baseball ones. But baseball fans are, in a lot of ways, super nerds. So, yeah. But no, they are quite entertaining. I wish my only complaint about any of the grids is I wish that you could, I know there's ways to do it. Don't get me wrong. I wish you had like not an unlimited amount of tries, but like, let me just work through this a couple times, see if I can get it right. I know that's kind of like a participation award type of deal. But like, I know you could go into incognito mode and do it again, and nobody would know.
Yeah.
But I would like at least a little bit more like, oh, I do wonder who that would have been before just tanking the whole thing out, and not being able to do it again. So
No, I hear you, Taylor. All right. Well, I did this earlier today. And I promise I didn't have this planned. Like I didn't see this grid before I said to you we're gonna do a grid, but the middle row is very much in our wheelhouse. So I tried my best with rarity. I know you can get one of these, I'm pretty sure you can get every single one of these squares, but I tried going with rarity as well. So I'm gonna hand over the floor to you, and I'll punch in all the squares you need me to.
okay, for the listeners, should we start with what like so?
Yeah. Oh,
All
that's a
con-
good point. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah,
Take it
okay.
away.
All conference Pac-12 and SC. Let's go with Taj Gibson.
He goes with Taj Gibson. That is correct.
Lottery pick and NBA draft. Let's go with OJ Mayo.
Juice condiment, indeed.
30 points NBA game. Let's go with Nikola Vucevic.
Ooh, pooch.
Okay, Arizona. I mean, we could do 1,000 of these for Arizona.
That's what I mean. That's why I go with rarity.
So let's go with rarity. All conference Pac-12. Let's go with one of my least favorite Arizona basketball player ever, Nick Wise.
Oh, Nick Wise. 0.16.
Yep. Let's go lottery pick NBA draft. Who would be a fun one for this? I don't know. Jordan Hill's a fun one. That's from our time period.
That is a good one.
That's got to be a pretty rare one too.
Whoa, yeah. He was in the league for 2 years.
No, that's when he was at Arizona.
Oh, okay. Shoot, sorry.
Great 0.7. 30 points NBA game. I would say Gilbert Arenas is a good one because I'm not sure many people realize as we do that Gilbert Arenas went to Arizona as 14%. Okay. Utah.
All conference Pac-12. Utah.
Let's think of about Pac-12 though. Oh, I almost messed that up. Yeah. Oh shoot. Who would be a good guy? Let's go with Kyle Kuzma.
How the hell are there this many other Kuzmas?
There's that many Kuzmas that have played in college.
Good Lord.
Lottery pick for the draft. God, maybe that would have been a good Kuzma one, actually.
I don't think he was lottery, though. I think Kuzma was like...
Yeah, he was like, I think it was the 19th pick in the draft, if I remember correctly, actually. Lottery pick from Utah in the Pac-12 era. God, why can't I think of his name?
It doesn't have to be Pac-12 era.
Oh, this can just be Utah in general.
Utah Utes.
Oh, okay. Andrew Bogut. That's an easy one. Number 1 pick in the draft.
That is correct.
And then let's go with 30 points. Let's go with a little Keith Van Horn.
All right. So Taylor, we did have some. Of course, you're immaculate. Yes. Let's see. Let me read off the most popular ones for SC's row. All conference Pac-12. Evan Mobley. Also, the most popular was Evan Mobley for the lottery pick. And DeMar was the most popular for 30-plus point games. For Arizona's row, DeAndre Ayton, all conference Pac-12. Same with lottery pick. And 30-plus point NBA game, the most popular is Richard Jefferson.
That's, I mean, yeah. But
I think it's because he's on like NBA, whatever
true.
the TV show is every day.
Yeah,
like,
right.
So
we had a lot of better options, or some good options for that. So, and I also, sorry, continue on. So, go ahead.
Just lastly, the last row, Utah, all conference Pac-12. DeLon Wright, the most popular one. Good for these folks. I think a lot of people forgot DeLon.
That's who I was trying to remember in my mind. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Bogut, lottery pick, most popular, and then Kuz, 30-plus. Or 30-plus in an NBA game.
Talk about prisoners of like the moment, or what have you done for me lately? Like 5 of those guys are under 25 years old. Like, come on, people. Let's get a little more depth to this. DeAndre Ayton, Evan Mobley. Like, he's only been in the league for like 2 years. Come on, give me more than that.
So let's compare notes here, okay? Okay. I went with Taj Gibson, USC all conference. So well done there.
Solid.
Lottery pick. I went with OJ Mayo as well. Nice. I was thinking that was going to be a little bit lower.
I was wrong because I contradicted myself. OJ Mayo didn't play in the Pac-12 either.
That's fine.
Pac-10 guy. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
right.
all right. You know what? You tried to make it harder for yourself.
Yeah, right. Yeah, my bad.
Well, no, USC's always been in the Pac-12 though.
No. I mean, he didn't. It was Pac-10. I was going
Oh,
with
true.
the 12 portion of it is what I was worried about.
Got it.
Yes.
Got it. All right. All right.
Yeah.
So I did go Evan Mobley, but I went
Okay.
Evan Mobley 30 plus points in
That's a
an
good
NBA
one.
game. I think so too. Like I don't think people realize
I
Evan Mobley's
would have been scared to take that. Yeah, because I mean I know he's very good. I know he averaged up high teens, but it's kind of 30 is a pretty good game in the NBA, even no matter how good you are. So
Absolutely. All right. So so you went with Nick Vucevic. That's a good answer. All right. So going to the Arizona row, you said Nick Wise. I went with Kyle Fogg at a
that's a good one too.
0.092%. I was real proud of that one. Lottery pick NBA out of Arizona. I went with Bison Dele. R.I.P.
Oh, wow. Brian Williams. Yeah.
That's right. I watched some HBO documentary on.
Yeah.
It's like not very good.
Right. It's like Untold before Untold.
But it's like a garbage version.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's not good. Right.
Bison Dele, lottery pick out of Arizona. And then 30 plus points in an NBA game. Chase Budinger.
Yeah. Chase Budinger was a actually sneaky decent NBA player. Really, he was. Nobody gives him credit. I'm not going to say why. Nobody gives him credit for being as athletic and good at basketball as he was. But we can just leave that up to everybody's own determination.
I already called people out for racism earlier in this show if you want to, so feel free.
I remember arguing with some guy when we were in college that told us that Chase Budinger wasn't athletic. And we were like, you mean the most athletic guy on the court? Like, what are you talking about?
The guy who in 10 years is going to give up his NBA pro career to go play volleyball?
And then was in a slam dunk contest in the NBA. Like, yeah, that guy that was unathletic. Huh. I wonder why you think that, random guy, whoever that was I was arguing with 15 years ago.
I think it was Pat Connaughton who tried pulling off in his dunk contest recently, the white boy can't jump look, and everyone lost their minds over it. I was like, Chase Budinger did that when he was on Houston, all right? And Chase Budinger did it better.
Chase Budinger has a great personality, but not like a great personality for selling yourself. He's a little bit too much of the California dude, volleyball, beach volleyball, bro. He's got no worries. He's all good. He's a professional athlete in two sports. What would he care about?
Love him. Okay, so for the Utah row, you said for all Pac-12 or all conference Pac-12, you went Kyle Kuzma. I went Jakob Poeltl. I thought people were going to forget about him, but they were pretty much the same percentages. Lottery pick out of Utah. I'm also proud about this one. I went Michael Doliak.
Oh, yeah.
Rick Majerus's boy. And then 30 plus points. Great minds think alike. Keith Van Horn. So we overlapped on Taj Gibson, OJ Mayo, and Keith Van Horn. I think your Jordan Hill call is really good, though.
You know who I would have liked to do other than Keith Van Horn is Andre Miller.
I was thinking, so Andre Miller came into my mind, but I was like, I think people randomly do remember that he dropped 50 that one game.
51 without making a three, I believe. I think that's the stat about that game. Yeah. So that would be a good one on the grid if you put that, because I bet you all three of those schools have 50-point scorers in the NBA, because I think Gill has a 50-plus point game in the NBA.
DeMar probably does, right?
I would think so. And then, just this last year. He didn't have 8 straight games of 40-plus points and all from the elbow, essentially. And then Andre Miller had essentially what is, along with Brandon Jennings, could have been a good guy for this if he would have attended the school that he had committed to, but kind of one of the most random 50-plus point games in NBA history.
Yeah. I think BJ did that when he was a rookie too, right?
I think it was his 4th game of the year or something like that. It was, I remember the only reason I say that is because I'm pretty sure we were going to a pool party at 100 degrees or whatever, and it was the first game of the year, first week of the year in late October when he did that. So I don't know if I remember that correctly, then maybe I'm not as sleep deprived as I think that I am. So,
well, sadly, there we go. We had what could have been in 08, 09. We talked about Chase Budinger, talked about Jordan Hill, talked about Brandon Jennings. That three. I mean, without Brandon Jennings, they went to the Sweet 16. With Brandon Jennings, who knows? But Taylor,
seventh game of his career.
seventh game. That's incredible. Yep. That's incredible. TD, want to thank you again for jumping back on and congratulate you. You look glowing. You look beautiful. I'm so happy for you and your family and Dottie Jean Daml. Whenever she wants to come onto the program, you let us know, all right?
She's got some thoughts on the NIL herself. So, yeah, I'll make sure that she can kind of rope those into one concentrated thought, and we'll get back to you.
Dottie, don't call me Rebecca Lobo Daml.
DJD, little Dot, young Dot on the track, man.
There we go. Brianna Stewart, Skylar Diggins. We got next up Caitlin Clark. Watch out for DD coming through you. We'll catch you next time here on Theater and College Hoops.